As usual, we will do about 50 minutes of conversation and we'll leave 10 minutes for questions and answers at the end. And Anchee will do a signing afterwards. For those of you who don't know, the book signing area is in the blue and white box at the far left corner here at the Rajnigandha front lawns. So that is where the signings happen. If you don't have a book, you'll want to stop in at the bookshop first after the session and then bring it over to the book signing area. So the session we're going into now is called Red Azalea. Please join me in giving a warm hand for Anchee Min in conversation with Anindita Ghose.
Good morning, everyone. It gives me great pleasure. Morning.
Test. Is my thing working?
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, test.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today with the wonderful and inspiring Anchee Min. Anchee Min is the author of 2 memoirs and 6 historical novels, mostly set against the backdrop of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. Several of them are about the Dowager Empress Siqi as well. Today we're going to focus more on her first remarkably early life memoir called Red Azalea, which was best-selling when it was published in 1994. Let me take you to the world of the book. Anchee Min is the eldest of 4 children growing up in the Shanghai of 1960s. She is a born leader. She excels in school. She is so devoted to Mao's politics that she is ready to denounce her own parents and her teachers, which she does. At 17, she's picked up to go to a Chinese labor camp by the East China Sea. She suffers brutally exhausting 18-hour days. And it's here in this desperate situation that she falls in love with her camp commander, a woman called Yan, and they strike up a passionate lesbian relationship. As the romance unfolds, she's picked up to audition for the title role of a grand opera that's to be staged in Shanghai called Red Azalea. So she's taken out of the labor camp and transported to Shanghai. It's a life of privilege. This is when Chairman Mao passes away. And because Red Azalea was a pet project of Madame Mao, all the people close to Madame Mao are then compromised when Madame Mao is arrested. So Anchee Min is then relegated to the life of a studio clerk. She's mopping the studio floors after having trained as an actress. And this is when she plots her escape to America. This is where Red Azalea ends. Anchee Min's second memoir, The Cook's Seat, takes off where the first ended. That chronicles her life in America when she arrived with $500 and no knowledge of English and an admission to the Chicago Art School. So welcome, Anchee. This is your first trip to India. Tell me what struck you about the country most when you came in.
I stepped into this festival. First thing, I was not prepared for that sensation. I was so thrilled to see the beautiful India eyes. And in China, if a woman's beautiful and they say, you have India eyes, like my mother, say, my mother had India eyes. And I always like to, paint my eyes like almond shaped, so I look like an Indian eyes. And here, I saw so many India eyes, beautiful India eyes. And I was like, tell myself, I say, it's rude to stare, but I just couldn't help myself.
Okay, so welcome here. So when Red Azalea was published in 1994, it was critically acclaimed in the West, but the Chinese hated its dissidents and your revelations about the lesbian love affair. Why was it so important for you to tell your story? What made you go ahead and do it?
Well, the Chinese critic tells me, who are you, Anchee Min? Who do you think you are? You are nobody. Your parents are nobody. They're not even party members. Yes, my father, when I was growing up, he worked in the printing shop as a labor, and my mother worked in a Shanghai rain boot shop, factory, and we're nobody. And that's the point, because I think that, you know, I understand the elite, that the Chinese critics wants to, they told me, they say, why can't you show the 5% of Chinese, they are elite, they are the best of China. Why do you have to show the darkness, the ugly side of China, as if China's image is not bad enough in the world? And I thought, you know, it's just, it happened to be important to me that 95% of the population lived my kind of life.
Mm-hmm. So your siblings were very upset with you as well, as were your parents, I believe, initially. Have you made up with them now? Have they read your book?
Well, my siblings was upset. It's not what I wrote about it, it's the depth of it. You know, you can write about Cultural Revolution because that's every family gone through. But when you go into that kind of personal details, that's shameful, embarrassing. And my sister said to me, you know, what do you think? My sons go out and his friends ask him, is your aunt a lesbian? And I can't explain. It was, how do you, I mean, in America, people tend to put things like into black and white. But in the labor camp, first of all, it was at the tail of the Red Guards movement, and the teenagers in the city were out of control. And Mao decided to ship them to the countryside. So actually 1/3 of China was assigned to the countryside. If a family have 4 children, 2 have to go. You have 2 children, 1 have to go. If you don't go, they come and drum, they play the drum until you go,
right.
Shame you. And when we went, just like 17 years old, where I stayed, it's a collective farm. We tried to grow rice and cotton support Vietnam. But the land was so salted, it just can't grow anything.
So you all worked really hard, 18 hours a day in the fields.
Plant rice, and it's hard to, you see, as a peasant, we know that we're gonna be there forever, and we're not allowed to date men. The price for love, to date a man, the lightest punishment is public humiliation and denunciation, and the hardest will be a bullet in the head. And the family will be mailed the price of the bullet for 26 cents. It's called to kill the hen to shock the monkeys. So the rest of monkeys aging from 17 to 25 would be so much in fear that we stay in our lot. Mm-hmm. And yet, human nature, yearning and craving for affection prevails. Mm-hmm. And my relationship with my commander was, it started as she was madly in love with a man.
Right, who was a commander of a neighboring camp.
Yes, mm-hmm. And she write letters to him, and they write letters, and nobody can deliver, so I volunteered. So when I went to the man gave me the letter, and later on, when the man was so scared, and he decided not to do it anymore, and I come back empty-handed, mm-hmm. And I start to, it's heartbroken. I didn't have the heart to tell her that he is not interested anymore. But she's so much in love. So then I ended up, you know, like a make-up stories about how this man loves her. And the more I feed her, the more passionate she got. And eventually, it just naturally took place. She asked me to, you know, basically play her boyfriend. I place a kiss, and she says, grab it. Inside a mosquito net, and I was 18, she was 22. Right. And it's just a yearning for the basic human affection so we can carry on carrying the manure and plant the rice with all these things that's unbearable.
Right. So Anchee, your very passionate relationship with Yan sort of forms the heart center of the book. But yet, I feel that you sort of want to step away from from calling it a lesbian relationship. You say in one part that Yan and I learned from nature and did the best we knew in regard to our needs. I had to pretend to be a man for her. Do you feel uncomfortable as being identified as bisexual or lesbian? Because you keep saying in the book that you all did this just because you missed men.
I would put it that way. I won't say I don't feel comfortable or uncomfortable. I feel that by accident, I discovered the poetry of God. And I learned that love has many forms of expressions.
Okay. So in the book you write about this, a book that you discovered in your early teens, which was your source to learn about erotica and lovemaking, and you passed that book on secretly to Yan. Can you tell us a little bit about that book and how you managed to get your hands on it in the very strict environments that you were growing up in?
Well, Red Guards were looting the books. They burned the books. And one of the books that I found was, the title is called 从头到脚猴眼看人, looking from head to toe, looking from monkey's eye. And in it, there's one sentence that caught attention. I was 16 years old, and it says, the highest form, the intercourse was the highest form of revolutionary comradeship. Mm-hmm. So that was my knowledge about.
So imagine what China would be if they actually followed the directions of that book.
Yeah. So I'm telling you that why China right now is the way it is today is where we are coming from.
Mm-hmm. Right. So one of the most moving parts of the book is your account of a girl called Little Green, who was a very bourgeois, very beautiful girl in your camp. And she dared to dress up while the rest of you were, grubby and, had kind of stained fingernails. And she was caught making love and then persecuted. The man was killed, and then she eventually went mad. And you've said in several interviews earlier that you needed to write Red Azalea for Little Green's ghost. I think, would you like to read a little bit from the book just so we can introduce Little Green to the audience?
Sure. Excuse me?
I think if you could just hold this up a bit.
I can never forget the day that I was called I was walking past the bridge, the man-made bridge in the labor camp, and a boatman called me. He says, come down here. I need you to identify somebody who was just drowned. So I went down and I saw this body. It's my first time I saw a dead person. And the color of the clothes was muddy and the face was down. And the boatman just flipped her over. The body already hardened. And it was in the water for 3 days, and it was Little Green. And I have to write this. After I got to America, because this image of her, the drowned face with the image that she was when she was alive, it haunted me. Little Green was 18. She had the bed next to mine. She was pale, so pale that the exposure of the sun all day did not change the color of her skin. Her fingers were fine, and she spread pictured as if she were organizing jewelry. She walked gracefully like a willow in the soft breeze. Her long braids swayed on her back. She looked down at the floor whenever she spoke. She was shy, but she liked to sing. She told me that she was brought up by her grandmother, who used to be an opera singer before the Cultural Revolution. She inherited her voice. Her parents were assigned to work in remote oil fields, because they were intellectuals. They came home once a year on New Year's Eve. She never got to know her parents much, but she knew all the old operas although she never sang old operas in public. In public, she sang My Motherland, a popular song since liberation. Her voice was the platoon's pride. It helped us to get through the tough labor, through the days we had to get up at 5 and work in the fields until 9 at night. You know what, motherland, my motherland. I just sing the first sentence, first phrase. 一条大河波浪翻，风吹稻花香两岸。And it just took us out of that place we're planting rice. She was daring to decorate her beauty. She tied her braids with colorful strings while the rest of us tied our braids with brown rubber bands. Her femininity mocked us. I watched her, sensed the danger in her boldness. I used to be the head of the Red Guards. I knew the rules. I knew the thin line between right and wrong. I watched the little green, her beauty. I wanted to tie my braids with colorful strings every day, but I did not have the guts to show contempt for the rules. I had always been good. I had to admit that she was beautiful, but I had all the other female soldiers said she was not. We tied our rubber band, brown rubber band, and the color of mud, of pig shit, of our minds. Because we believed that the true communist should never care about the way she looked. The beauty of the soul was what should be cared about. Little Green never argued with anyone. She did not care what we said. She smiled at herself. She looked down on the floor. She smiled from the heart at herself, at her colorful string, and was satisfied. No matter how tired she got, Little Green always walked 45 minutes to the hot water station and carried back water to wash herself. She cleaned the mud off her fingernails patiently and gaily. Every evening, she washed herself in the net while I lay in my net watching her, while my paw-like fingernails laid on my thighs. Little Green proudly showed me how she used to remnants of fabrics to make a pretty underwear, finely embroidered with flowers and leaves and birds. She hung a string next to the little window between our beds on which she could hang her underwear to dry. In our bare room, the strings was like an art gallery.
Okay, thank you. So, Little Green was caught out, and you were part of the team that was responsible for outing her. And you still suffer from some of that guilt. But within that scenario, you still went on continuing to have your own relationship with Yan. So tell me about that, that kind of hypocrisy. How did you face yourself?
Well, when we caught Little Green was making out with her boyfriend in the fields, we thought to help her because in China, you see, the commander from top down, we had no knowledge of sexuality. So the only knowledge we had was from our own families. For example, Yan, she grew up in a family of 9 children. Every night in the dark, she would hear her mother's cursing and tell her father. Her mother's got a scissor, place a scissor under her pillow, and the mother says, "Don't you dare." So Yan knew that lovemaking, what the man and woman do is pain, is rape. And the mother just did not want to have any more children. So to her, when she saw a man and woman together, and she assumed that's what happened. So she thought Little Green was violated. So we break them up and put the little green in a section we called intensive like brainwashing, just make her knew that she was communist. And you should value your body, should not be violated by men. And so she agreed to read a letter of denunciation of the lover. But by the time the lover was escorted into the room, and I can tell from the face of that man, he was in love with her, and they both in love, but Little Green trembled and denounced him as a rapist. So what do we do with the rapist? So the People's Trial, when the question was asked, do we shoot him? And everybody say we shoot the rapist. China has a crime-free society. And the result was Little Green had a nervous breakdown. We did not know. So one day she stopped singing, stopped the washing, and in the middle of the night, she threw away our shoes and opened the mosquito net, let the mosquito in, and everything. She's wandered around, and eventually she drowned. And that really hit people like me and Yan. What have we done? We became her murderer, but with a very good intention, trying to save her from the violation of men. So that's still, I think it's the complicity of stories that today we still, as China as a nation, we are unable to face it. And everybody was a criminal and victim at the same time. And we only acknowledge the role of victim, of all of us, but nobody come out to say that we did that too, we murdered too. So I thought to be the one who just come and tell the truth about myself.
Okay. So Red Azalea was published 3 years after Yung Chang's Wild Swan, which was also a bestseller. Though it's set in around the same period, your book is far more critical of Chinese politics and society than Wild Swans. Do you think it's because of the difference in the circumstances that you all grew up in? Yung Chang's father was an important official in the Mao regime, and she had a rather privileged childhood. You were working in the labor camps. Do you feel you have, more of a grasp of the grassroots reality?
Well, I think we make a great combination. I'm from grassroots family, middle lower poor class. Mm-hmm. So you see from both angles, you get to see a complete picture of China, a Chinese woman, what we have gone through during the Cultural Revolution, and what made us who we are today. Mm-hmm. If we don't know anything, if we have gained anything from the Cultural Revolution, we gain political maturity. And Chinese people, and nobody else like Chinese people knows that the communism and Mao version did not work. Mm-hmm. And nobody hated it more than us.
Right. So both in Red Azalea, you're quite sympathetic to Madame Mao and telling the story from her point of view in a way. In your other books, you've explored the Empress Dowager Cixi, while she's generally generally known as a despot by both Chinese and Western historians. Why is it so important for you to tell stories from the feminist point of view? And just to explain, the background of these women that mm-hmm. everybody seems to hate.
Mm-hmm. Well, in China, there's a tradition that every downfall of a dynasty is the fault of a woman. So a woman should be hanged. That's okay. I think that Madame Mao did enough. She deserved to be, punished. But the thing is that Mao is equally, if it's not more, responsible. But today, Mao's picture is still hanging on the gate of Tiananmen. When his woman of 38 years, his wife, was sentenced to death. And I thought I should just mention that. During Madame Mao's sentence, she was sentenced to death, and when the sentence was announced on the national television, and she shouted, 我是主席的狗，主席让我咬谁我就咬谁。I'm Mao's dog. Mao asked me to bite, I bit. I have married this man for 38 years. You want to help me tell the story? Yes, I can tell the story, but do you have the guts to hear it? And at that moment, they just escort her, out. And eventually, she committed suicide after 12 years, and she willed. You think of it in the jail, she hanged herself with her socks. And actually, it's not from the ceiling, though from the bed. She tied on the bed and the will. I mean, how strong of a will that a woman have to have. And it was said that she wrote about her story, about her memoir sort of thing, the manuscript, and she asked her daughter to take it and to be published in the West. But daughter had to make a decision between the dad and mom, and she chose dad. And mom was so depressed and disappointed and in despair, and in the meantime she had some illness, so she decided to kill herself.
So the opera of Red Azalea too, in a way, is the story of Madame Mao's life, and she wanted to sort of spread it in the world, and that's why producing that movie and the opera was very important to her. And you were part of this big audition process, and you were selected, and you went through several rounds to play the title role. Tell us a bit about the story of Red Azalea and why it was so important for Madame Mao to produce this film.
It was 1975 and early 1975 to the end of 1975. Nobody knew that Mao was dying but Madame Mao. And she planned to take over China after Mao's death to become China's president. And she needs to produce a campaign movie, feature a female character, which is a reflection of herself, an ideal woman, the face of China. So she sent a talent scout all over China to look for this face. And I was hoeing wheat in the cotton field in the labor camp when I was spotted. I remember that day, I was working behind my platoon. I was so hungry because my back was injured badly from carrying manure. And I haven't really been eating because if I didn't finish the quota every day, no food. So I often just fall asleep while I'm planting or doing work. And that day, there's a white van appeared on the horizon. A group of people got off the white van and coming toward us. They are all in green-colored army suits, and we knew that they are important. And everybody stopped. They just stopped hoeing and they're watching, and I thought to myself, I might have a chance to eat today. So I worked so hard, the hoeing, so from that point of view, I was the only moving object on the entire horizon. So that was how I was spotted. Mm-hmm. And when I was, then 2 weeks later, I got an order to be shipped to Shanghai Film, to report to Shanghai Film Studio. So I was put on the tractor first and then on the military truck. At the Shanghai Film Studio, I discovered that they have over hundreds of girls. We all look alike. The height was 5'5", and weight was 120. We all have like big eyes, everything against the Chinese traditional beauty. We have cheekbones because I think Madame Mao was influenced by the Western, aesthetics of beauty. They ask us, can you perform? A lot of girls performed, and I thought there is no way I can do anything because I did not know how to perform. I did not know the people who know how to perform are all eliminated, because the fact that you know how to perform means you have a background, a culture, bourgeoisie. And when it was my turn, they said, what do you know? Do anything? And I said, I don't know anything, but I know how to recite Mao quotations and Mao poems. So they say, just do it, comrade Min. So that was in my blood. That was when I grew up. In order to get away from bullies, I would recite Mao poems. Because once you recite, nobody can hit you. If they hit you when you're reciting Mao poems, they are anti-Maoist. They will be in trouble. So I became so good that I compete for the school. And each competition I won, I got 1 Mao buttons as a reward. I have 800 of them. So you know how hardcore Maoist I was. So I was reciting this poem. It's called In Praising of the Winter Flower. And Mao described himself, the gorillas, as the little winter flower hiding and blossoming over the cliff in the frozen weather. So he says, 风雨送春归，飞雪迎春到。已是悬崖百丈冰，犹有花枝俏。俏也不争春，只把春来报。待到山花烂漫时，他在丛中笑。When the world revolution succeeds, the little red flower will smile, hiding among the spring flowers. So that got me picked. Anyway, I still did not know how to act, and I was a lousy actress. So the Anchee Min, we're gonna teach you acting 101. So learn how to drink water the proletarian style. Ready, set, go, drink water. So I drink water and pretend the camera's there, and the instructor says, stop. Look, your little pinky up. This is Miss Bourgeoisie. And the correct way to drink water is to grab the mug and gobble it down in one breath and wipe your mouth with both of your sleeves.
Like a soldier, right?
But still, I was a lousy actor. When the camera is ready, set, action, all I could think was I wanted to get out of the labor camp.
So here you were plucked from the labor camp and auditioning for the most important, female role in the Chinese film industry right then. Were you shown a lot of movies? You also mentioned earlier that you all did have some Hindi movie influences, and you sang an Hindi song for me earlier.
Oh yeah, when we grew up, Madame Mao made 8 revolutionary operas. It's all brainwashing operas. The operas too, she stole from ancient tunes, beautiful, but she filled in the lyrics of revolutionary lyrics, and the stories, changed the story. None of the heroines, she made like 6 of them, feature a female heroine, which is herself, basically. And they had no love life. They all, so we grew up and did not know anything but try to be martyr. My dream was to blow up be sent to Vietnam and blow up the American soldiers and myself too. We call 干掉一个够本，干2个赚1个. When you kill 1 American, you make your capital back. If you kill 2 Americans, and you profit. So that was my dream. But then all these operas reinforce it, just brainwashing. And nothing else, no Western movie stories, anything. The only tiny little window about outside world was 2 Indian movies, and the title was, one was 大篷车. It was all household things that we addicted to in China.
Avara Hu, it's Raj Kapoor's Avara Hu.
So it's everybody, like from young to old. So that's all comes to music and beauty and some little breeze of life during the 12 years of China's total closure. So India was our, things that associate a little bit with pleasure and good life.
Right. So here you are, living the good life and auditioning for this role and training to be an actress. And then when Chairman Mao dies and Madam Mao is arrested, you must have been very terrified about what your fate would be, because you were considered close to her and everybody close to her was being persecuted. So did the idea of escaping to the US happen in that very soon after, or what were you going to do?
It happened after 8 years. I was coughing blood. I was literally dying in China. September 9th, 1976, Mao died. October 8th, Madam Mao was arrested, later on sentenced to death. And 2 months later, I was denounced as Madam Mao's trash. So the Chinese way of punishment is to isolate you, and I have to do the self-examination. But the thing is, I did not know anything. I was just following orders. The problem was my face. Now my face is out of date. That's a good thing. But the other thing is that it was in my dossier. I could never be trusted. And in the meantime, during the training time, I was too, they call me a bourgeois individualist because I asked questions and somehow displeased my teachers. You see, the teachers who brought to come to teach me, it's like a cat. It's like to teach cat how to teach a tiger how to climb the tree. So when the cat teach the tiger how to climb the tree, and then the tiger would be, the cat would be dead. It would have no place to escape. So my teacher resented teaching me. So after the regime change, it was a good time for them to kind of nail me to death. So I was sent ordered back to the labor camp, and I managed to be on the borrowed worker list status in the Shanghai Film Studio for the next 8 years. And nobody was allowed to talk to me. So the goal was to have me kill myself, commit suicide. And I constantly thought, you know, the Huangpu River by the Yangtze River has no lid. I could just go and jump in. And it's a long story about the ways I try to figure out how to end my life. It was that time, a friend of mine,
Joan Chen.
Right, actress Joan Chen, she was one of the people she was told not to talk to me. You don't talk to Anchee Min. If anybody talk to Anchee Min, your political future is finished. And she went to America after she became a household actress, best actress in China, went to Hollywood, and she feels safe enough to write me a letter, says, "How are you?" And I said, "My life is no good. I was going to finish anyway." And "How are you?" And she says, I'm a student in America, working, paying my own tuition. I said, you're the superstar. You have to wait at tables and make money. And she says, "Yeah, every student in America does that." And the light bulb just come up in my mind. I say, "Can I be a student, go to America?" And she said, "Well, you have to be college graduated or something. You're only middle school. But do you have any talent?" And I said, "Well, you're right. I never gone to university, but I grew up painting Mao murals." So it happened at the time the French was curating an exhibition of Impressionism in Shanghai for the very first time, 1983. So I went, and first time I saw Matisse and Vincent van Gogh, I thought, I could do that. So I come home and produce something that pour my feelings into it, and my mother says she saw death. So I applied to art school and Art Institute of Chicago, and I got the application form.
And you lied in your application form and said you were proficient in English.
Well, this is the one that when they asked, okay, on the application form, first thing is name. I don't have an English name. So I consulted the neighborhood's wise man who told me that I should call myself Angel, because Anchee, it sounds like an angel. So I wrote down Anchee Min. And years later, when my daughter was 10 years old, I took out that original paper. I said, "See, this is how your mother came to America. My name was Anchee Min." And my daughter picked up the paper, she looked at it and says, "Mom, it's Anchee Min." And the next section in the application form is sex. I was supposed to circle female. So I consulted my dictionary. It's a 1972 Chinese Communist English Chinese dictionary. It has no explanation it's no word for sex. So I did not know how to circle male or female. So I thought I won't be able to finish. So I took the application form and went to a friend who was a tour guide, 1984. And I waited at her door from 10 o'clock to 2 in the morning, and she come back, she said, I'm so tired, okay, let me just do it for you. Okay, middle school and English language skill, poor, average, good, excellent, of course, excellent. So I didn't know what she was doing until I got caught at the American consulate. Yeah. Of course, before that was the episode on getting the passport.
Mm-hmm. Right, the woman at the airport who
no, it was before the passport.
Right.
Chinese passport. Mm-hmm. I went to the communist boss. I said, I want to go to America. Where do you want to go, America? I said, I wanted to go study art so I can come and serve China better. And then, you know, everybody lies in China those times because you don't lie, you don't survive. So it's such a luxury. Today, I don't have to lie. And so the boss says, are you a member of the Communist Youth League? I say, yes. And he says, do you, Comrade Anchee Min, intend to promote revolution in America? I say, yes, sir. I said, good, Chuck, you have the passport. The next one was really hard. It was getting American visa. Mm-hmm. I said, how would I fool American consulate? I wrote a self-introduction and recited, same way I recited the Mao poems. And I thought, I will not let the consul general interrupt me. If he or she did, they're gonna find out I don't speak English. So the moment I heard my name was called, I went up and said, my name is Anchee Min. I wanted to go to America. And I just, in one breath, I recited the whole thing, and the reaction was, okay. And the consul closed the curtain on my face. You know, those days, because so many people, they come in, and when they don't get the visa, which 90% of people don't get the visa, they want to argue. But when they have the curtain closed on your face, you don't get a chance to argue. And I was moved to the next window, and the Chinese secretary was there. Huh. You think you fooled Americans? It's just you're lucky. They like people with crazy determination. So I got the visa. When I went home, my parents was leaning on each other. They didn't have the guts to ask, did you get it? And there was like eventually I took out, I said, I got it. I eventually just saw my mother just collapse on the floor, and my father was being dragged down. And mother says, I can't see. But I got it, and my father says, you think you're gonna fool them. You're not gonna make it. You make it out of China, but you're not gonna make it into America, and you're gonna get caught. And I got caught and was sent to the deportation.
Well, you made it out of there, clearly. So in your first few years in America, you learned English by watching Sesame Street, mm-hmm. And you worked 5 jobs. Tell us a little about your early years in America.
Well, I live at the bottom of American society. And as a writer, as I'm looking back in retrospective, it's really a bless that you get to know the bottom and the dark, the society where is most illegal immigrants, they're there. So I basically rented a place, it's the money. Basically, it's the money that wherever money takes me. So in a place that I, just give you a day, I will get up like at 6 o'clock in the morning and do some homework and get ready and then go to school. And then in the 3:50 in the afternoon, I would run to the train station, Union City in Chicago, and take a 1-hour train to Libertyville, suburb of Chicago, get into Chinese restaurant, work in the Chinese restaurant illegally in a way because I don't get paid. And I remember Thanksgiving Day, I earned a negative $5 because when nobody came, I have to pay my train fare. And my boss was a lady from Taiwan, and I carried like six dishes on the plate, and she was behind me. If I walk faster, she says, the house is now on fire. And I slow down. She says, I didn't hire you to be a lazy bone. But I feel happy because she let know that what's wrong with me. Not like in China, you don't know what's wrong with you when you're punished. Here is clear that I know what to improve. And then I get off the job, 11:30 at night, come back and start in my graveyard shift, painting on women's underwear, 50 cents per rose. And that lasts me all the way to 3:30 in the morning. And the weekends, I would be a gallery attendant and working on construction site, be somebody maid. But all these jobs are better than my first job. My first job was to rent out my body for a medical drug trial. And my American roommate says, oh, Anchee, you should not do that because that's going to hurt your liver. You think I don't know? If I had an option, I didn't have an option. This is a work that I could do just by hurting my liver. But of course, when I went there and for the interview, I just resented because I almost got the job, and this lady says, no, in America, you have to sign the contract. You have to read it and sign the contract. And I say, don't bother, I don't know English, I just sign. And he says, no, you can't have it. Because if you don't read English, I can't give it to you. So my next option was being to be a model at the art school. I get paid $7 per hour being the fashion model, posing with the clothes on. But then that job was not enough. So the painting department came and said, if you come and posing for nude, we pay $15. And I thought, I really need the money to pay the rent. And these other money is not enough. So I go, and that night, I just cried. And my eyes are swollen the next morning because I feel like I'm prostituting myself, you know, a Chinese girl. And they were so excited, we never had a nude Chinese model. And I went there, and I just couldn't stop crying. And I went to the room, and the lady says, oh, here's your heater. We're in Chicago in the winter. She said, here, you carry your heater. Why are you crying? Oh, I know. It's okay. You're having your period. You come back later. Just go home. Don't worry. I have a backup already. And you come back. And so when she pushed me, just stop crying, go home. And I didn't have the guts to say I want the money. So didn't get to do that. But you see the state of my mind. I was just doing anything just to make money and to survive.
Right. So I think we have time for just one last question, but tell me about your love-hate relationship with China. You still miss your homeland terribly. Your book is banned there, and you've kind of replicated a mini Chinese garden where you live in San Francisco. You've planted 60 camellias. So are you allowed to visit very often? The government is using a video of you to promote peasants to move to the cities.
Yeah,
but your book is banned there.
2 weeks ago, I was on CCTV because I was calling China for a friend who's sick. He said, oh, we saw you on news, broadcasted by CCTV, Central China Television, and the state-sponsored. I said, you got to be kidding me. Me? On Chinese news? It's impossible. He says, yeah, here's the link, go. So I checked the link, and it was me, and they were actually promoting the cooked seed because I was featured on the American National Book Festival. I was the speaker, and they came here and then filmed me. I did not know it was CCTV, and they went, and they feel it could make a good tool. Like China has an issue right now from migration from peasants to the cities, and chaos, people don't know how to adjust themselves, and dislocation, uprooted, family. It's just very much like my immigrant experience in America. But what the useful thing for the Chinese government to promote the book was that, you see, this woman have to learn another language, and you can survive. She works 5 jobs, and she educated her daughter, and eventually daughter went to Stanford. I mean, you can do the same thing. So my relationship with China is kind of really complicated. You know, the beginning, the critics just say, Anchee Min, you are so bad that you insult China. You take off your pants to let the Westerners are people. And I will have these PhDs come every time when I talk. They come and will line up in the back of the theater. And they will shoot me with the questions. You liar! And I said, just come up front, come front. So sit here, we can have a face-to-face conversation. But then in the meantime, China was fascinated by me being American bestseller, being the nomination for the British Book Award for Empress Orchid to be picked as readers' best read of the year. And they feel that I have a voice, that I, by core, I'm pro-Chinese people and Chinese culture. And it's more powerful than the Confucius Institute that Chinese government set everywhere in America and nobody goes. So they actually, with Red Azalea, the media people promoted me so much like I was known recognized walking on the street of China. But then one day, crash down came. You know, China's always like very insecure. They like you and they trust you, but they not trust you. And then it was said, the producer came to me and says, well, sorry, we have to cancel the TV show. We shot you in America, profile of Anchee Min, and we can't see because, Jiang Zemin had a meeting with all the media people, says, did you read, any of you, the original Red Azalea? We don't have to make an anime with Anchee Min, but we don't have to promote her either. Because the fact that I was praised by becoming an international seller and get China really nervous. Because they can't imagine that, you know, because it's anything that's things that Chinese writers do, populate. If they are popular in the West, they gotta be anti-China. So it's like a, you know, flip and flop all the time. But right now, China is beginning to realize that the true confidence of a nation is to be able to live with the positive and the negative criticisms. So not long ago, China, thank you. China had this books. I was surprised to learn. It's called 10 books that China introduced, recommend you to read. It's called Let's Get to Know China. And the number one was Anchee Min's Pro of China, Pro Less Buck.
Okay. Thank you, Anchee. We'll take a few audience questions now. Here, right in the front.
Hi, if memory serves, you were a finalist with 3 other women for that role. You describe it in your book, sort of there was a rivalry with one girl. And anyway, I'm just curious if you have seen, met, talked to, had any connection or knowledge of what those women are doing today.
Well, just simply tell you that one of the girls, she became the head of China's perfume company. China won't make a good fighter because China is a pleasure-seeking nation. Make money to have pleasure. Make more money, have more pleasure. China is obsessed with toilets and personal space. And first thing I make money in America, I bought my mother a toilet. That it's her dream to have a toilet. So we are obsessed with that, with beauty and pleasure, basically. It's like a result of the Cultural Revolution. We know what we don't want. Yes? Okay.
There's the gentleman here.
Yeah, okay.
If you had to share a paragraph of your net wisdom with humanity, how would you write that?
What's come to mind on 2, one is it's a gray area. Like the moment that all of us, young children in China, my generation, wanted to be the model was inspired by Mao's teaching on humanity. And he says, men of humanity should refuse to preserve his life at the expense of that humanity. And that inspired us to be the martyrs. And today, humanity to me is to tell children that the sun does not hang on one family's tree. Everybody's got a chance, and that's my humanity. Thank you.
One more question, somebody at the back?
2 of them.
Okay,
can you give the, yeah.
Second row, please.
Thank you very much for that moving and inspiring session. My question is that in India, we admire the economic growth that China has achieved, very often forgetting the costs at which it has come. And you have a perspective on India also, I suppose, apart from the Indian eyes. Apart from the Indian eyes that you were talking about how we view freedom and economic growth and how the two relate. What is it that you'd like to say as a message when you compare what is more important, or how do we deal with this dichotomy?
Well, I think China is really worried. Chinese parents are worried because we are so economic advanced. Because of the Cultural Revolution, we thought it was the Mao's poetry, and we are into arts that killed us, make us so in a bad place end up. But now everything has to be engineer. Every child study engineer, and we forget. When you don't have literature and arts like this, you don't read books of humanity, you're just getting corrupt by the core. And so many parents are waking up and say, I don't know my child. He's have everything blessed that I didn't have, but he's turning into a monster. So that's China's concern right now.
Thank you. I think
you're going to end up with the opera?
Yeah. Oh, I thought you sang that already.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I haven't. One minute.
Okay. So just to end the session, Anchee Min will sing one of her operas for us.
I wanted to treat you because nowadays, the Chinese women are, in the past, we are robbed our youth. And in our old age, Chinese women my age, our dream was to live a life and have pleasure that we want. For me, the first thing on the list was to learn Indian Bollywood dance, you know, like that. So I'm taking lessons, but you know, Chinese women can dance. And because we don't have, we admire, envy Indian women, you know, you have the vase shape, we have no hip and no breast. So sad. But we gotta live it. But I want to show you this Madame Mouse opera that we brainwashed grow up with for 10 years. This is the only thing. And you see how far I'm coming from this one to Bollywood lessons. Okay, this is called Celebration. And the lyrics is saying, victory is simply to go on living. 今日同饮庆功酒，壮志未酬，誓不休。来日方长显身手，干洒热血写春秋。Thank you.
Thank you.